Revealed, how an Apache gave up his farms for a son, yet found incredible love with a widow. Eli stood in the middle of his parched fields, staring blankly at the brown stalks that once danced vibrantly under the sun. It had been a year since the accident, a year since the laughter of his only son shattered like glass, leaving an emptiness that echoed through the warmth of summer and the chill of winter. The news had swept through Maple Grove like wildfire, a town that prided itself on communal bonds suddenly stricken by a grief that turned every handshake into a shared sorrow. With each passing day, Eli felt the earth beneath him slipping away, just as the joy of his son's smile had vanished. The simple routine of farming felt Herculean without his son's help. Every sunrise dragged him out of bed, but his heart weighed heavy like a stone. He missed the sound of his son's boots crunching on the gravel driveway, the way they de-worked the land together, trading playful banter as they toiled. Now it was just him, alone with the ghosts of memories that haunted the worn grooves of their home. Eli found himself surrounded by well-meaning neighbors, but he felt detached, a ghost drifting through a life he no longer recognized. Bills piled up, the farm was struggling. Late one rainy evening, a knock at the door startled him. It was Laura, a newcomer to town, her weary eyes reflecting a broken spirit of her own. She was a single mother, grappling with the sudden loss of her husband and struggling to make ends meet. Her resilience was a flicker of hope in the abyss of Eli's grief. "Could you help me?" she asked, her voice cracking like the dry earth beneath Eli's feet. Moved by her situation, he felt an unexpected camaraderie grow between them. Something about their shared pain ignited an ember of life within him. Slowly, he began helping Laura out, listening to her, understanding her struggles. And in return, he found a glimmer of purpose amidst the overgrown weeds of sorrow. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As they spent more time together, Eli knew he was teetering on a delicate edge. The townsfolk rallied around him, with treats and assistance flowing in like a warm embrace, yet his burgeoning friendship with Laura was met with cold stares and whispers. Those who believed in maintaining the old ways felt uneasy as Eli contemplated sacrificing parts of his land to help Laura find stability. At community gatherings, Eli could feel the weight of judgment, an invisible tether burdening his heart as he searched for acceptance amidst the quiet hum of gossip. Every stolen moment with Laura filled Eli's heart with warmth, but it was tinged with guilt. It felt impossible to embrace newfound feelings while the specter of his son loomed large in his mind. They often uncovered threads of their intertwined past, echoes of long-buried family feuds surfacing, compelling questions hanging in the air. Could love withstand the shadow of history? With the harvest festival approaching, the air thick with anticipation, and laughter echoing down the lanes, Eli stood at the crossroads. Would he honor his past or take a leap of faith into the uncertain future with Laura? Just when Eli thought he found a footpath through the darkness, a shocking secret resurfaced, threatening to unravel everything. Heart racing, he was left grappling with an unsettling question: could love truly blossom amid the thorns of societal expectations? Eli awoke the next morning to the sound of soft rain against his window. It felt like nature was weeping, a fitting reflection of the turmoil in his heart. The harvest festival was less than a week away, but the thought filled him with both excitement and dread. Laura had agreed to join him, a tentative step toward something bright in a landscape dulled by loss. Yet, the weight of the impending judgment from the townsfolk loomed over him like dark clouds ready to burst at a tea breakfast. Eli tried to focus on his eggs, but his mind drifted to the last time he'd seen his son. The kitchen seemed colder without his laughter to warm it, a chilling reminder of what once was. He stared at the old picture on the wall, his son, hands dirty but face lit up with joy as he held a freshly picked vegetable. Eli felt his throat tighten. The thought of moving forward, of smiling again, felt like a betrayal that he pushed thoughts of the past aside and decided to visit Laura that morning. Maybe sharing his worries with her would ease the burden. The further he drove down the dirt road, the more a sense of urgency filled him. Couldn't they find a way to heal together? Would she understand his conflicted feelings? These questions spun around in his mind, and mixed emotions battled for dominance. When he reached Laura's small house, he found her kneeling in her garden, her fingers digging into the rich soil. Despite her struggles, there was strength in her movement, as if the earth itself cradled her in its embrace. As Eli approached, she looked up, a small smile breaking through the clouds of worry shadowing her face. "Good morning, Eli," she called, brushing the dirt off her hands. "Care to lend a hand?" "Sure," he replied, feeling oddly lighter as he knelt beside her. They worked in silence for a moment, the sound of shovels hitting dirt filling the gaps where words might have otherwise cluttered their budding relationship. "What's on your mind?" Laura asked suddenly, glancing sideways at him with those penetrating eyes. She seemed to have an intuitive grasp of the weight he carried. Eli hesitated before revealing, I want to help you, Laura. It's getting more difficult for me, though. The town's whispers, their judgment. It feels like they're expecting me to forget." "Eli," she said softly, setting aside her tools. "You have every right to remember. And every right to live. We're not meant to live in the shadows of our pasts." Her words struck him deeply, a lifeline amidst the storm. He looked into her eyes, and for the first time since his son's passing, he saw a glimmer of hope, a chance to rewrite his story. Though there was fear tangled in that hope, it was small and stubborn, a flicker pushing back against the dark. "I want to share my life with you, but I don't want to feel guilty about moving on," Eli confessed, his heart racing as he spoke the words he had ached to voice. "Then let us take it one step at a time," Laura replied, reaching out to clasp his hand. The warmth of her touch brought a rush of comfort and solace that he had long been without. However, just as the moment felt electric, a distant yelling broke through their intimate cocoon. Voices carried through the air, a group of townsfolk approaching. Eli felt his chest tighten again. Would they dare to intrude now, to shatter the fragile thread of connection he had just begun to weave? As they turned to face the approaching crowd, Eli's heart hammered in his chest. The joyful spirit of the harvest festival felt like a fragile bubble poised to burst. Before he could prepare, one face broke from the group, an unmistakable frown on old Mr. McGregor's face. Eli knew that look too well, condemnation wrapped in concern. "Eli, we need to talk," Mr. McGregor commanded, stepping forward. The weight of the past pressed down on Eli like an anvil. Would this be the moment everything unraveled? Eli's breath hitched. Could he stand for what was right? Or would he retreat into the safety of silence? The choice hung in the air, thick with tension, waiting to be made. Eli's mind whirled as Mr. McGregor's sharp gaze bore into him. The tension in the air felt almost alive, a tangible weight that made it hard for him to breathe. What was coming? Would they confront him about his connection with Laura? "Mr. McGregor," Eli stammered, but words tangled in his throat. The villagers behind McGregor murmured among themselves, their eyes darting from him to Laura, each flicker of judgment cutting deeper. "It's about the festival," McGregor interrupted, his tone steady but heavy with reproach. "The town can't bear to see you gallivanting around with her. Haven't you lost enough? You should be in mourning, Eli. Not parading your feelings." "Feelings?" Eli echoed, his voice rising. "Is that what you think this is? Just feelings?" He gestured toward Laura, who remained silent, a storm of emotions swirling in her eyes. "You don't understand. I'm trying to live again. I'm trying to honor my son's memory by not letting grief cripple me." The murmurs escalated, turning to whispers laced with shock and disapproval. Eli felt the heat rise to his cheeks, a mix of anger and desperation. Would anyone ever let him breathe? Honoring him means you keep his memory alive, Eli. Not running off and forgetting who you are, McGregor shot back, crossing his arms defiantly. "Who says I am forgetting?" Eli challenged. "Can't I find joy without erasing my pain? Is it so wrong for me to want to carry both my grief and a chance for happiness?" He stepped closer to McGregor, emboldened as the crack in his heart began to close, however slightly. The sight of Laura, lingering just behind him, filled him with warmth. She had believed in him when he scarcely believed in himself. "Eli," Laura's voice broke through. She took a small step forward, placing a gentle hand on his arm, a grounding presence amidst the rising tide. I'm not asking anyone to understand. I just want to be here for you, for both of us. Her words had a healing quality, yet the crowd's focus shifted between them. The discomfort was palpable, a crackle in the humid air, as whispers now became pointed stares. You two are making a fool of yourselves, McGregor spit out, his voice low but fierce. People are already talking, Eli. You know that. You're not just hurting yourself, you're tarnishing your son's name. You think he'd approve? Eli's body stiffened at the mention of his son. You know so little about how I honor him. You assume grief is a straight line, but it's not. It's messy. I don't want to lose Laura because I'm supposed to live in the past forever. He turned to face the crowd, his heart racing. I'm not ashamed of who I am or what I feel. I've lost too much to let fear control me. If this is about love, then maybe it's the strongest thing any of us have right now. The silence that followed was deafening. Eli met the gaze of a few familiar faces in the crowd, searching for understanding, a spark of compassion. But he could see their resolve hadn't shifted. Eli stood tall, trying to grasp the strength that had grown within him. Maybe you won't understand today, but I'm rebuilding and I'm not going to shy away from it. With that declaration, Eli felt the tremors of uncertainty within him start to settle. It was a small stand against the tide. Let us go, Eli, Laura whispered, sensing his resolve. She stepped beside him as they turned to leave, leaving the crowd flabbergasted. As they walked, heartbeats sinking in quiet defiance, a feeling of peace washed over Eli, healing wounds he hadn't realized were still fresh. But as they approached the edge of the garden, a voice called out from the shadows, one he didn't expect. Eli. It was Caroline, one of the townsfolk he had grown up with. Wait. You need to hear me out. Eli paused, heart pounding again. Would her words bridge the gap or push him deeper into the abyss? Eli turned slowly, uncertainty gnawing at his insides. Caroline had always been a fixture in their small town. He remembered her laughter as a bright thread in the fabric of his childhood, a constant presence. But time had altered everything. What do you want, Caroline? Eli asked, his voice firm but edged with a hint of vulnerability that he couldn't suppress. Caroline stepped forward. Her face was a mix of concern and determination. I know how hard this has been for you, Eli. I can't pretend to understand your feelings, but if you're choosing to move forward, I don't think you should do it alone. Not with all this weight on your shoulders. Eli's chest tightened. She was right about the weight. It clung to him like a heavy cloak, always threatening to drag him back into the past. But he sensed that Caroline's words were laced with something deeper. What do you mean? He asked, his heart racing with a combination of hope and fear. I've seen some folks around town, some of your friends saying things behind your back. She glanced down, hesitant to go on. They're holding on to the idea that your happiness with Laura is a betrayal to your son's memory. But I know what he meant to you, Eli. You shouldn't have to choose between love and honoring him. That's not how love works. Laura stood by Eli's side, her eyes locked on him, as if searching for a way to melt the tension that hung awkwardly in the air. He could feel her warmth seeping into him, fortifying him. Caroline, it's more complicated than that, Eli said, the heaviness of his heart making his voice quiver. People don't just lose a child and bounce back. They expect you to grieve a certain way to stay within the lines they've drawn. But Laura, she's helping me see the colors I forgot existed. Caroline nodded, her expression softening. Maybe it's time to remind everyone that those colors don't wash away your grief. You're allowed to live, Eli. You're allowed to find joy. We can't let anyone dictate our heart. Eli's eyes flickered toward Laura, whose supportive smile gave him the courage he desperately needed. Could he really stand against the tide of tradition? All of those voices like a chorus screaming for him to stay in mourning, to recede into a shadow. Before Eli could respond, Caroline took a step closer, her voice dropping. And if it means anything, I'm with you. Speak up. Let them hear your truth. You're not alone, not if you don't want to be. The words felt like a lifeline, pulling him closer to the surface. But just as fast as the flicker of hope ignited, a crush of weariness followed. Would anyone else rally to his side? Would they turn their backs even more fiercely if he pressed on? Eli looked into the crowd, searching their faces again. The murmurs of judgment continued, but among them, a few showed whispers of concern and questioning. Could this moment turn the tide? Maybe I need to fight back, he whispered, taking a steadying breath. But I'll need all the help I can get. If they want to turn this into a war, I'll plead my case for love, for acceptance. A spark ignited within him, blending strength with vulnerability. The choice was clearer now. He had to stand up for what he believed was right. Caroline gave him a small, encouraging nod. Together. Let us show them who you really are. As Eli and Laura exchanged a determined glance, a wave of energy rushed through him. It wasn't about the ghosts of the past anymore. It was about living, stepping into the light. But just then, someone in the back cried out, their voice slicing through the air like a knife. Don't listen to him. He'll only bring dishonor. The crowd's eyes turned again, filled with unease. Eli braced himself, heart racing anew. Could he really face this storm? He had to know. What else would they say? What more could he uncover? Eli felt the words hit him like a punch. Dishonor echoed in his mind, mixing with the pressure of eyes boring into him. Even if a few faces showed concern, many were poised like vultures, ready to swoop in and feast on whatever shred of hope he dared to cling to. Who said that? Eli asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The tension felt thick and electric. He could sense Laura's anxiety next to him, her fingers brushing against his arm, grounding him. Do you want me to? Caroline offered, glancing back at the crowd. Her tone was fierce, protective. The warmth of her presence reassured Eli, pulling at his courage. No, he said, swallowing hard. This is mine to handle. If they want to speak their truth, I want to speak mine. He steadied his breath, each word carving its place in the air. I won't deny my grief. Losing my son is something I carry with me always. A murmur broke through the gathered crowd, but Eli pressed on. But I also won't deny the love I've found again. I refuse to feel shame for wanting to be happy. As he spoke, the weight on his shoulders grew lighter, a surprising relief flooding him. It was as if the shadows that loomed over his heart receded, just enough for light to spill in. Laura stepped closer, her eyes shimmering brightly. Everyone deserves love, Eli. It enriches us, not diminishes our memories of those we've lost. Her voice came out soft but strong. Exactly, Eli replied, his gaze darting through the crowd, eye to eye with some of the people he once called friends. You're protesting against love. You think my moments with Laura, my laughter and joy are wrong? They honor my son's memory. He would want me to find joy, to live fully. Not to linger in a shadow. The response was immediate, some nodded, murmurs transforming to tense agreement. Yet others shifted uncomfortably, doubt still flickering in their eyes. Eli, a voice called from the rear, a friend from years back. How can you be sure you're not using Laura to escape your grief? It feels disrespectful. A chill gripped Eli's chest, but he wouldn't back down. Love doesn't replace grief. It makes room for it. I can carry both my son's memory and this new love without them competing. It's not disrespecting his life, it's honoring it. What we had will live on through every laugh, every tear. And those memories will always be a part of me. There was silence, and Eli felt the moment stretching. His pulse raced, heart hammering in his ears. He could see the shift, that small crack in the rigid condemnation. What if they are right? A woman said uncertainly, subdued but still present. What if moving forward really means forgetting? Then we need to teach them, Eli replied, voice steady as rock. If we silence love, we will only drown in our sorrow. He looked around, seeing faces soften, minds opening to a different perspective. For the first time, it felt like a few were considering standing with him instead of against him. That thought alone buoyed his spirit, igniting hope where despair had lingered too long. With newfound conviction, Eli called out one last time. Let us not just stand together in grief, let us stand together in love. If we honor those we've lost, we need to continue living fully. That's what love teaches us. Are we willing? And in that moment, something shifted. A ripple moved through the crowd, a palpable energy of uncertainty and possibility, but as Eli's breath caught in his throat, he felt a familiar unease gnawing once more. What would he do if they still disagreed? In the distance, Eli noticed a figure watching quietly, a stranger who raised an eyebrow as if intrigued. Just what role would that person play in this unfolding drama? Eli's heart raced again. Tonight may change everything, but change can be a double-edged sword. What would happen next? Eli felt the tension rise, a rising tide that threatened to drown him. The eyes of the crowd, a mix of friends and strangers, reminded him of the fragile state he was in. He took a deep breath, feeling Laura's comforting presence beside him. She was a lighthouse guiding him through the storm, her strength bolstering his resolve. Can you feel it? Laura whispered, her voice a soothing balm against the chaos. It's shifting. They're listening. He looked around again, searching for the small flickers of hope. Some people had softened their expressions, their brows unfurrowing. Others, however, remained skeptical, arms crossed tightly as if shielding their hearts. Eli knew he had to reach them. What's your plan, Eli? Caroline asked softly, concern shadowing her features. What if they don't come around? He sighed, his heart aching with the weight of expectation. Then I keep talking. I won't give up on what I believe on love. This is just the beginning of a conversation. With that thought in mind, he lifted his chin, his voice rising above the muted murmurs. I can't bring my son back, but I can honor his memory through joy. I refuse to lock my heart away. I want to celebrate the life he had, not just mourn his absence. A low hum spread through the crowd as conversation sparked. Eli offered a glance towards the stranger at the back. Their eyes met, and Eli felt an odd sense of understanding pass between them. Who was this person? Why did they seem so invested in his fight? Eli. A familiar voice broke his focus. It was Sarah, someone he hadn't seen in years. Don't you think you're rushing this? It's easy to think you can just move on. But you have to be careful, or you'll hurt yourself more. Her words pricked at old wounds, the tentacles of doubt reaching for him again. But then he caught a glimpse of Laura, her warm smile encouraging him to press forward. I appreciate your concern, Sarah, he said earnestly. But love is not a rush, it's a journey. I'm not moving on without my son. Instead, I'm bringing him with me into this new chapter of my life. We are intertwined in ways you can't fully understand. The crowd fell silent, the air thick with contemplation. Eli's heart raced, desperation mixing with hope. Would they hear him? Would they let the light of understanding filter through their grief? Just then, the stranger stepped forward, their demeanor calm yet commanding attention. What Eli is saying is profound, they called out. Have you ever thought about the gifts we can give each other, the connections we can foster? Holding on too tightly to grief can rob us of new beginnings. Eli felt gratitude swell, the stranger amplifying his message. Yes, he exclaimed. If we're all willing to open our hearts, we can build something beautiful together. A few members of the crowd nodded, sharing glances that hinted at reevaluation. But doubts were still anchoring others in their places. Eli could feel their weight etched in their stances, some arms still crossed, some eyes still wary. Maybe, one man said hesitantly, breaking the lingering silence, but how can we trust that this love won't erase the past? That's my fear. That we'll forget how to grieve. Eli's stomach twisted, the question raw and exposed. He could see the fragility in the man's stance. Grief is a part of love. You don't forget someone by embracing joy. You honor them by living fully. We can hold both those emotions, and no one has to lose their place in our hearts. But layers of understanding remained unseen, and Eli could feel the battle for acceptance still smoldering. In that moment, Eli spotted a flicker of tears in Laura's eyes, a reminder of both their shared past and the journey ahead. He turned back to the crowd, sensing that their decision rested on what happened next. What if we all tried to embrace the discomfort of this transition together? He called, his heart pounding. A collective breath seemed to echo in the air. What if we opened our hearts and minds to love, and mixed it with our grief instead of letting it consume us? Would you be willing to try? Eli felt the ripple of energy shift again. There was hesitation, but beneath it, a glimmer of hope was beginning to spark. Just then, the stranger took a step towards him, eyes bright with something before they hesitated, pausing as if gathering strength. What would this stranger choose to reveal? Would their truth tip the scales one way or the other? Holding his breath, Eli braced for what was about to unfold, realizing he had no idea how this night might change everything again. The stranger took a slow breath, their face softening as they spoke. "My name is Alex," they began, their voice steady but laced with emotion. "And I know a thing or two about grief. A few years ago, I lost my partner. We had dreams, traveled to places we'd never been, shared so much laughter." Eli's heart sank for them, the pain echoing his own. The crowd leaned in, ears straining to absorb Alex's story. It felt as if the air had become charged, ready to spark at any moment. "I was consumed by my loss. I couldn't see beyond my grief. It felt like a chain binding me to the past," Alex continued, their gaze sweeping across the faces of the crowd. "But then I caught a glimpse of a life I could still live. I started to let love back in through friends, new experiences, my art." They paused, taking a moment to shake off the weight of memory before carrying on. "I learned that to honor my partner, I had to embrace joy and connection. It didn't erase my love for them. Instead, it expanded my heart." As the words hung in the air, Eli felt a wave of understanding wash over him. The crowd was shifting, even the most skeptical seemed caught in the warmth radiating from Alex's honesty. "I can see it now," one woman whispered. "It doesn't mean forgetting." Eli stepped closer to Alex, their shared truth inviting him to share more. "What I'm trying to do, what we're all being asked to consider," he said loudly, "is not to replace or erase our lost loves but to build relationships that include them. We carry them with us, honoring them in every laugh and every moment of happiness. It makes us stronger, not weaker." A murmur of agreement rippled through some of the crowd, and Eli seized the moment. "Together, we can create a path filled with love and remembrance." He pointed at Alex, who wore a hopeful yet determined expression. "Look at Alex. They took a leap, and now look where they are standing here with us, reminding us what it means to be alive." Alex nodded, a small smile breaking through their initial solemnity. "Love doesn't have to be limited," they added. "It can transform. Just like life does after loss. It might even lead us to unexpected relationships that bring unforeseen joy." Eli felt a sense of urgency, knowing that this was his moment to connect. As he scanned the crowd, he caught sight of Sarah again. "As hard as it might be to believe right now," he encouraged, "every tear we shed is a part of celebrating what's gone. We can't go backwards, but we can find strength moving forward. The connections we make, the moments we embrace, they are a tribute to love, not a betrayal." The skepticism still lingered in some faces, but Eli could feel barriers beginning to crack. A man stepped forward, courage in his stance. "I felt like I can't move past my loss without hurting. But maybe I can try to let in happiness." "Yes," Eli said, fueled by the man's admission. "That's the heart of it. We can embrace this together, as a community." A ripple of nods surged through the crowd. People began stepping forward, voices rising in a chorus of shared experiences and tentative hopes, as they slowly opened up about their own grief. Eli felt the tide turning. Eli turned to Laura, her eyes shimmering with tears of relief and pride. "Look at this," he said quietly, overwhelmed. "We're not alone." Just then, a young girl in the crowd raised her hand timidly. What if the new love we let in hurts the old love we remember? She asked, her voice small but steady. Eli's stomach dropped at the question. It was a profound concern, a fear that many were feeling but hadn't voiced. How would they reconcile these conflicting emotions? He felt the weight of her words resonating like a bell. What would he say? How could he give them an answer that would reassure them? Eli took a deep breath, aware that the heart of this gathering rested on how he navigated this pivotal moment. All eyes were on him, waiting for his response. Could he articulate a hope strong enough to keep the connection alive? Would he help them see that love was not a subtractive act? Eli could feel the stakes rising. Higher than ever. Would he be able to guide them through this new question, or would it shatter their burgeoning hope? He opened his mouth, ready to respond, when suddenly an unexpected sound cut through the air, causing everyone to freeze. What was happening now? The crowd fell silent, all eyes shifting toward the source of the sound. A sharp crack like a branch snapping echoed through the park, pulling everyone's focus like a taut string. Eli's heart raced as confusion swirled among the faces around him. From the edge of the gathering, a tall figure emerged, walking slowly but purposefully. It was the man Eli had seen earlier, the one with the worn leather jacket and a brooding demeanor, standing alone at the tree line. He hesitated for a moment, heavy boots crunching the leaves beneath him. His eyes were locked onto Eli, igniting an unfamiliar mix of dread and curiosity in Eli's chest. "Wait," the man called out, his voice deep and gravelly. "I've been listening." Eli sensed the crowd shift again, tension gathering like clouds before a storm. What was this stranger going to say? The air felt charged, as if everyone collectively drew a breath, caught in the moment. "What do you know about loss?" The man continued, his tone troubled. "You stand here, preaching about love after grief, but is it really that easy?" There was pain in his words, a crack in his facade that revealed something deeper, something raw. Eli clenched his fists, rooting himself to the spot. "It's not easy," he responded, his voice steady but heavy. "If it were, we wouldn't be standing here together, would we? We're all searching for a way to move forward, to honor what we've lost." "I lost my father last year," the man said, his voice trembling like dried leaves against the wind. "Not to death, but to abandonment. He left us," for he broke off, eyes flickering with unshed tears, the anger surfacing and retreating in the same heartbeat. "And I feel that ache every day. So how do you let love in when you're stuck waiting for something that never comes back?" Eli felt the confession like an arrow piercing through the kindling of hopelessness. This wasn't just about romantic love or partnerships, it cut deeper into family, into trust and betrayal. "By accepting that you're worthy of love," Eli replied, his heart racing. "It's okay to feel anger and hurt, those are real feelings. But holding on to them can create a prison that suffocates the possibility of joy. You can't expect to heal without confronting what they did to you, but it doesn't have to define you." The man's expression was conflicted, the fight between resignation and hope playing out in his features. Eli knew he had to dig deeper, tap into that connection. "You are not alone in this. You may have lost love, but you don't have to keep losing what's left. Reach out. Find those who can love you without conditions. The future can still hold beauty." The onlookers murmured softly, absorbing Eli's words and the man's pain. Eli felt the gravity of the moment as shared vulnerability filled the air, interwoven with understanding. Just then, the girl from earlier spoke again. "But what if we're scared of being hurt again? What if trying to love means we have to risk losing more?" The question hung like a thick fog, and Eli could see the man visibly soften, allowing others to see his fear. A thread of recognition danced among them all, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences. Eli swallowed hard, taking a steady breath, preparing to address their fears. "It's a risk. But isn't love worth the chance to fill your life with light, even when darkness looms?" As Eli finished, the crowd remained hushed, waiting for something more. In that silence, hope flickered amidst their unspoken fears. But then, just as an air of solidarity began to swell, an unexpected rustling grew louder nearby. Everyone turned towards the sound once more, This time, bushes began to shake violently, the tension blooming anew. What awaited them from the tangled underbrush? A voice called out, clearer and ringing more familiar now, cutting through uncertainty. Eli. It was Laura's anxious shout, slicing the quiet like sharp glass. You need to see this. What was happening now, and why was Laura's voice so urgent? Eli's heart pounded in his chest as he turned to face Laura, her face pale and eyes wide with urgency. The uncertainty in her voice screamed for attention, and he knew in that moment whatever was about to unfold could change everything. Laura! He shouted back, stepping away from the crowd. The moment of connection with the man faded as adrenaline surged through him. What's wrong? Laura stepped forward, glancing nervously at the shaking bushes before locking eyes with Eli. Something's happening over there, she said, pointing. I think it's about your dad. The air suddenly felt heavier, as if it was saturated with secrets waiting to be exposed. Eli's breath caught. His father had been an enigma, a man wrapped in layers of his own decisions and anguish. Only the whispers of family tales touched on the truth of his past, the choices he had made and the silence that followed. What do you mean? Eli pressed, his instincts raging, a mixture of fear and hope igniting within him. Was this an opportunity to understand? To confront the shadows that had lingered in their family for so long? Laura glanced back at the bushes, her voice shaky but firm. I heard some people saying they found something. It's a letter. It has his name on it. A wave of emotion crashed over Eli. He took a step toward the bushes, heart racing with a desperate need for answers. If this is true, it could help. Maybe it'll explain everything. As he approached, the crowd shifted back, creating a small space filled with anticipation and uncertainty. Eli peered through the tangled branches, noticing a group of people huddled together, murmurs rising like smoke in the air. What did they mean by a letter? Eli thought, eyes narrowing on the group. As they parted slightly, he caught sight of a crumpled piece of paper being held up, the corners frayed and worn, as if it had traveled through time itself. His breath hitched. Please, let it be something good, he whispered, though the specter of doubt loomed in his mind. He had spent so long wondering about his father's choices. While anger had once consumed him, now it mixed with an aching curiosity. The man from before, the one who had radiated pain and experiences so similar to his own, watched from the sidelines, confusion flickering across his face. Eli felt the connection once again, sensing the shared loss that bound them together even amidst their individual struggles. How much do we let our past define our future? Eli thought as he took another step closer. He longed for clarity, something tangible to grasp onto. He felt Laura at his side, her presence both reassuring and grounding. A burst of laughter broke the tension just then, pulling their attention momentarily sideways. A young boy had tumbled onto the grass, his innocence and laughter slicing through the heavy atmosphere. Eli smiled, bittersweet emotion blending joy and memory. It was a reminder of what happiness looked like, even bathed in sorrow, but he kept his gaze on the letters. What secrets lay hidden within those fragile folds? As the group shuffled closer, whispers intensified. Eli could feel the murmurings vibrating through the crowd and thickening the air. It clawed at his marrow, a blend of hope and dread intertwined. Eli. Came Laura's voice. Come on. Just look. Eli pushed through the closing distance, heart racing. The line between the past and future began to blur. What awaited him beyond the threshold of discovery? The air was electric, and just as Eli reached the edge of the gathered crowd, someone lifted the letter higher, revealing the faded ink barely legible in the fading light. He stood breathless, pulse quickening. Could this letter change the narrative of his family forever? What had it to say? Eli, it's time to find out, he thought, stepping forward, pulse racing as he reached for what could finally grant him answers he had been seeking all his life. As Eli stepped closer, the world shrank to the piece of crumpled paper. It crackled in the soft breeze like the whispers of long-lost memories begging to be unearthed. He felt Laura's hand squeeze his, a grounding reminder that he wasn't alone in this moment. The townsfolk faded into a blur, their expressions shifting between curiosity and anxiety, a reflection of his own turbulent emotions. With trembling fingers, he reached out, the letter now a bridge between his past and the future he longed to embrace. It felt heavy, laden with untold stories. Eli stood on the precipice of revelation, heart racing as the crowd held its breath, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. "Open it," someone whispered, the words rippling through the crowd, igniting excitement and tension alike. Eli's heart thundered in his chest. He unfolded the letter with delicate care. The crinkled paper seemed to breathe, sharing its secrets with him. The fading ink was faint, but he could make out the familiar handwriting, his father's precise loops and curls shaping each word. Eli's breath caught in his throat. "Dear Eli," he read aloud, voice trembling as he fought against the tide of emotions. As he continued, those words wrapped around him like a warm embrace. "I know I have let you down in ways I cannot fully express. The choices I made were suffocated by my own regrets." Eli felt the air around him thicken. There was an ache in the letter, a longing to be understood. As he pushed through the delicate sentences, fragments of his father's heart emerged. "I left, but I never stopped loving. I thought distance would free you from my mistakes. I thought it was the only way." Tears welled in Eli's eyes as memories washed over him, memories of a father caught in a tempest of life's choices, never quite reaching the shore of their relationship. He scanned the crowd, counting the unsure faces, but also the glimmers of empathy slowly emerging. They too had lost something, perhaps the ability to see beyond grief. Suddenly, the letter shifted from regret to something else, hope. "It's never too late, Eli. Life is full of chapters, each one capable of redefining the last. I want you to know it's okay to find happiness again. Carry me with you, not as a burden, but as a reminder that love always finds a way back." Eli paused, letting those words sink in the kind of unconditional love that transcends mistakes. The air vibrated around him. For a fleeting moment, he felt his father's presence, filling the gaps created by silence. "I need you to embrace love, in all its forms. I would want that for you." Eli choked back the sob that threatened to break free, overwhelmed by the wave of emotion roaring through him. He looked out at the crowd, faces reflecting understanding and a hint of compassion that hadn't existed before, threads of connection weaving through the fear of judgment. "I want to live," Eli exclaimed, the determination ringing out. "Not just to remember, but to celebrate, to forge ahead, finding joy while honoring the past." An echoing murmur of agreement washed over the crowd. Eyes glimmered with newfound respect and wonder. Eli looked straight at Laura, who stood strong beside him. Her radiant smile encouraged him as his voice grew steadier. "As a community, we've shared losses of all kinds. But if we're willing to embrace love, we can carry those we've lost with us, rewriting our stories with every step." A shift was palpable now. Every hesitant expression began to give way to slow nods and soft smiles. Even Mr. McGregor, the staunch defender of tradition, softened, the shadows of worry lifting slightly from his brow. Eli took a deep breath, realizing his father's words resonated far beyond their family. They struck chords in hearts similar to his. They were messages of resilience, echoing long after the last tear was shed. "This has been about more than me," he declared, pointing to the crowd as he felt empowerment radiate from within. "This is about all of us finding our way through pain and into love. We deserve to carry on, we owe it to those we've lost." As the crowd started to murmur amongst themselves, Eli could see the walls that had once felt impenetrable begin to crack. The warmth of acceptance spread like a sunrise over Maple Grove, a town that had struggled under the weight of its grief, now threaded with the light of collective healing, and together, hand in hand, Eli and Laura stepped forward into the light, ready to embrace life, love, and everything that lay ahead. The Harvest Festival promised joy once more, a celebration not just of the past, but the inherent beauty of love that could rise from its ashes. With his heart full, Eli finally turned to the sky, thankful for the rain that watered their journey. He understood, now, that love had always been the answer. Love never leaves, he thought, holding Laura close as the townsfolk gathered around them, whispers fading to laughter. It only transforms. This is the moment that can change everything. You need to subscribe now to not miss these incredible stories. Your engagement keeps this adventure alive. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others experience this transformation. Comment below your reactions and feelings about the ending. Your thoughts matter. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey of healing. Together, we can build a beautiful community filled with love and support.